In the heart of a bustling metropolis, nestled between aging skyscrapers, stood the enigmatic Tech building. Its history was shrouded in whispers and rumors, the kind that chilled the bones of the city's inhabitants. Despite its daunting reputation, Alex, a bright-eyed software developer, couldn't contain his excitement for his first day at Tech. Little did he know, his dream job was about to morph into a nightmare that would linger in his mind forever. Alex arrived early, the first rays of dawn casting long shadows across the lobby's marble floors. The building, an architectural relic, whispered the echoes of a bygone era. He was greeted by an elderly security guard, whose eyes held stories untold. "First day?" the guard asked, a cryptic smile playing on his lips. Alex nodded eagerly, oblivious to the weight of the question. As he made his way through the dimly lit corridors, Alex's anticipation grew, but so did an inexplicable feeling of being watched. He shrugged it off as first-day jitters. The office was eerily silent, with no sign of his new colleagues. He found his desk, a small island in a sea of abandoned workstations, each one shrouded in dust and mystery. The morning passed in solitude, the silence punctuated only by the clacking of Alex's keyboard and the distant, almost imperceptible hum of the city. Lunchtime arrived, and still, Alex had not seen another soul. Confusion gave way to unease. He decided to explore, hoping to find someone, anyone, to dispel the growing sense of dread. His search led him to the building's core, where an ancient elevator awaited. Its design a stark contrast to the modern technology Alex was accustomed to. Compelled by an unknown force, he stepped inside and pressed the button for the basement, the only option available. The elevator descended slowly, its creaks and groans sounding like the whispers of the damned. When the doors finally creaked open, Alex was met with a sight that froze his blood. The basement was a vast, cavernous space, filled with rows upon rows of old filing cabinets, their contents spilling out like the innards of some grotesque beast. At the center stood a circle of desks, each one occupied by a figure, their faces obscured by shadows. As Alex stepped closer, the figures turned to face him, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. They spoke in unison, their voices a chilling chorus. "Welcome, Alex. We've been waiting for you." Panic seized Alex, urging him to run, but his feet were rooted to the spot. The figures began to rise, their movements synchronized and deliberate. Just as they were about to reach him, the ground beneath Alex's feet gave way, and he was swallowed by darkness. He awoke to find himself back in the lobby, the morning sun casting the same long shadows across the marble floor. The elderly security guard stood over him, the same cryptic smile on his lips. "Quite the first day, huh?" he murmured. Confused and disoriented, Alex stumbled out of the building, the events in the basement replaying in his mind like a broken record. As he looked back, the Tech building loomed over him, its windows dark, hiding the secrets within. Days turned into weeks, and Alex could not shake the haunting experience of his first day. He dared not return to Tech, yet the building seemed to call out to him, beckoning him to uncover its mysteries. And so, our story hangs in the balance, the true horror of Tech remaining just out of reach. A dark tale to be continued. Haunted by his experience, Alex found himself at a crossroads. The logical part of his mind screamed for him to move on, forget the twisted reality he had glimpsed within the Meyertech building. Yet, a deeper, more primal part of him was irresistibly drawn to the mystery that had enveloped his first day. Nights were the worst, filled with dreams of shadowy figures and endless basements, each morning leaving him more exhausted than the last. Determined to find answers, Alex began to research the history of Meyertech. The task proved daunting. Information was scarce, as if history itself had decided to erase the building from its annals. What little he could find was buried in obscure forums and old newspaper clippings. Tales of disappearances, strange sightings, and an original owner whose ambition had bordered on madness. His obsession grew, consuming his thoughts and his nights. He mapped out the building's layout, pored over architectural blueprints, and delved into urban legends. Each piece of the puzzle only deepened the mystery, hinting at ancient rituals, hidden chambers, and a power that lay dormant beneath the city's streets. Compelled by a force he couldn't understand, Alex returned to the Meyertech building under the cover of night. The city around him slept, oblivious to the dark secrets that lay in its heart. The building stood silent, a sentinel guarding the threshold between reality and nightmare. He slipped past the sleeping security guard, a different one from his first day, and made his way to the elevator. Its doors opened as if expecting him, welcoming him back to its iron embrace. This time, the basement button was not the only option. A new button, unmarked and seemingly out of place, beckoned him. His finger hovered over the button, uncertainty warring with his need for answers. A deep breath steeled his resolve, and he pressed it. The elevator descended, far beyond the depths he had previously known, into the bowels of the earth. When the doors opened, Alex stepped into a world unlike any he had imagined. He found himself in an immense underground chamber. The architecture, a bizarre fusion of ancient and modern. At the chamber's center stood a monolithic structure, its purpose unclear, surrounded by an intricate pattern of symbols carved into the floor. As he approached the structure, the air around him began to thicken, charged with an unseen energy. The symbols on the floor glowed faintly, illuminating the chamber with an eerie light. He reached out, compelled to touch the monolith, to understand its secrets. Just as his fingers brushed against the cold stone, a sudden rush of visions flooded his mind. Images of the building's past, its construction, the rituals performed within its walls, and a plan set into motion decades ago, all converging on this moment, on him. The ground shook, and the air screamed. Alex staggered back, the flood of visions leaving him gasping for breath. The chamber began to change, the monolith at its heart pulsating with a life of its own. Shadows danced along the walls, coalescing into forms both terrifying and mesmerizing. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything ceased. The chamber was silent once more, the monolith inert, but the air remained charged, a silent promise of things yet to come. Alex stood alone in the darkness, the weight of what he had discovered pressing down on him. The story of Meyertech was far from over. It had only just begun, and he, Alex, was now irrevocably a part of it. The true horror lay not in the past, but in what was yet to unfold. chilling silence of the underground chamber, Alex's mind raced to make sense of the overwhelming visions and the eerie calm that now enveloped him. The monolith, now dormant, seemed like a sentinel guarding the secrets of the universe, its brief awakening a glimpse into the unfathomable. Alex knew he had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. He was now a part of Meyertech's enigmatic history, woven into the fabric of its dark legacy, with more questions than answers. Alex realized the true depth of the mystery was beyond anything he could have imagined. The building was not just a structure of brick and mortar, but a nexus of ancient powers and modern ambitions, a puzzle spanning decades, perhaps even centuries. The visions hinted at a grand design, a purpose for the building, and for him, but the details remained maddeningly out of reach. As he ventured deeper into the chamber, the faint glow of the symbols on the floor guided his steps. Each symbol seemed to pulse with an inner light, beckoning him forward. The air was heavy with a sense of anticipation, as if the very stones were holding their breath, waiting for an event of monumental significance. Suddenly, the chamber began to change. The walls, previously solid, now appeared fluid, shifting and undulating like the surface of a dark sea. Shadows moved with purpose, coalescing into figures that were both familiar and utterly alien. They spoke in a language that Alex felt he should understand. Yet the words slipped away from him, just beyond the grasp of his comprehension. One figure stepped forward, its form more defined than the others. A silhouette of a person, or perhaps something that once was human. It reached out to Alex, its hand stopping just short of his face, as if offering a gift or a warning. The air between them crackled with unseen energy, a silent conversation passing between them. The figure's presence was overwhelming, its essence seeping into Alex's very being. He felt an inexplicable connection, a thread tying him to this shadowy envoy, and through it, to the building itself. The figure's hand withdrew, and with a final, piercing look, it faded back into the undulating mass of shadows, leaving Alex alone once more. The chamber began to settle, the walls solidifying into their original form. The symbols on the floor dimmed, their light retreating as if satisfied with the night's revelations. Alex stood in the center of the chamber, the weight of the encounter pressing heavily upon him. As he made his way back to the surface, the building seemed to whisper around him, the echoes of the past and the promise of the future mingling in the air. The elevator ascended slowly, carrying him away from the heart of the mystery, but not from its grasp. Stepping out into the night, Alex looked back at the Meyertech building. It stood silent against the skyline, its secrets locked within. He knew he could not walk away, not now. The building had chosen him, or perhaps he had always been a part of its story, a story that was far from over. As dawn began to break over the city, casting a pale light on the streets below, Alex's resolve hardened. He would return night after night if necessary to unravel the mystery of Meyertech. The shadows had beckoned him, and he would answer their call, delving deeper into the darkness in search of the truth. But for now, the building stood silent, its stories untold, its horrors lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The story of Alex and the Meyertech building was to be continued, a tale of darkness and discovery unfolding in the heart of the city. As the first light of dawn began to dispel the shadows of the night, Alex felt a profound change within him. The encounter in the underground chamber had left an indelible mark on his soul, intertwining his fate with that of the Meyertech building in ways he could not yet comprehend. The city around him awoke, oblivious to the dark secrets that lurked in its heart, secrets that Alex was now privy to. Determined to uncover the truth, Alex dedicated himself to deciphering the visions and the cryptic language of the shadows. He pored over ancient texts and obscure manuscripts, seeking any clue that might shed light on the building's mysteries. The more he learned, the more he realized that Meyertech was not just a building. It was a confluence of energies, a focal point for forces beyond the realm of the ordinary. Each night, as the city slept, Alex returned to the building, drawn by an irresistible pull. The security guards, the night shift workers, even the occasional late-night wanderer, none saw him. It was as if the building itself cloaked his presence, guiding him to its hidden depths. The underground chamber became his sanctuary, a place of power where the veil between worlds was thin. Here, the shadows spoke more freely, their whispers coalescing into a narrative that spanned centuries. Each visit revealed more of the story, a tapestry of ambition, sacrifice, and a relentless quest for power. The figures in the shadows, once ominous, now appeared as guides, their presence a constant as Alex delved deeper into the mysteries of Meyertech. The figure that had reached out to him, in particular, became a familiar presence, its silent communication offering glimpses of the past and hints of the future. But with each revelation came more questions. The building's original owner, a man shrouded in myth and legend, emerged as a central figure in the tale. His ambitions had been grandiose, his plans intricate and far-reaching. But what was his ultimate goal? And how did Alex fit into the design that had been set in motion so long ago? One night, as Alex stood in the chamber, the air around him thick with anticipation, a new vision struck him with the force of a physical blow. He saw the city from above, the Meyertech building at its heart, pulsating with energy. Lines of power stretched out from the building, connecting it to other points across the city, forming a complex pattern that pulsed with a dark life of its own. The vision shifted, and Alex found himself standing in an ancient ritual chamber, the walls adorned with the same symbols that lined the floor of the Meyertech chamber. A group of figures stood in a circle, their hands raised as they chanted in the cryptic language. At the circle's center, the original owner of the building, his eyes alight with fervor and madness. As the chant reached a crescendo, a portal opened above the circle, a swirling vortex of shadows and light. The figures in the circle were swept away, their cries echoing in the chamber as they were consumed by the portal. The vision faded, leaving Alex gasping for breath in the now silent chamber. The implications of what he had seen were staggering. The Meyertech building was not just a focal point. It was a gateway, a bridge between worlds, and the ritual, unfinished for centuries, was nearing its completion. Alex knew he could no longer be a mere observer. He was a part of this story, woven into its fabric. The shadows had shown him the past, future remained unwritten. What role was he to play in the completion of the ritual? And what would happen if the portal were opened once more? The answers lay hidden in the depths of the Meyertech building, its secrets guarded by shadows and time. Alex's quest for the truth had become a journey into the heart of darkness, a path that would lead him to confront the very essence of power and madness. As he left the chamber, the building seemed to sigh around him, the weight of its history pressing against the walls. The story of Alex and the Meyertech building was far from over. It was a tale that would unfold in the shadowed corners of the city, a dance of light and darkness that had only just begun. As the days melded into nights, Alex's life outside the Meyertech building began to blur and fade. His existence increasingly tethered to the enigmatic structure and its hidden truths. The city, with its pulsing lights and teeming masses, seemed like a distant dream, a fleeting backdrop to the unfolding narrative that consumed him. Within the confines of the building, time lost its meaning. The shadows became his companions, their presence a constant reminder of the journey he had embarked on. The figure that had first reached out to him in the chamber now appeared more frequently, its silent guidance leading Alex through the labyrinthine corridors of knowledge and power. With each encounter, the bond between Alex and the shadowy figure grew stronger, an unspoken understanding developing between them. It was as if the figure was preparing him, shaping him for a purpose that remained just beyond his grasp. The visions became more intense, more personal, revealing glimpses of events that shook the very foundations of the building, and perhaps the world itself. One evening, under the cloak of darkness, Alex made his way to the underground chamber, the pull of the shadows stronger than ever. As he entered the chamber, he noticed a change. The air was charged with an electric anticipation, the symbols on the floor glowing with an urgent intensity. The figures in the shadows were agitated, their whispers urgent and chaotic. Among them, the familiar figure stood silent, its focus on Alex unwavering. As their eyes met, a torrent of visions assaulted Alex, more vivid and coherent than any before. He saw the building in its infancy, a grand vision of glass and steel rising from the ashes of the old city. The original owner, his face alight with an unholy zeal, overseeing every detail, imbuing the structure with ancient rites and forbidden knowledge. The narrative shifted, revealing the construction of the underground chamber, a sanctum built to harness the energies that converged beneath the building. Alex saw the rituals performed, each one more elaborate and dangerous than the last, culminating in the event that had opened the portal and consumed the original owner and his acolytes. But the story did not end there. The visions showed the aftermath, the building sealed and forgotten, its power lying dormant, waiting for the one who could complete what had been started. And as the visions faded, Alex understood. He was that one, the inheritor of a legacy that spanned centuries, chosen by the building and its shadows to fulfill a destiny he could barely comprehend. The chamber fell silent, the urgency of the shadows receding like a tide. The familiar figure approached Alex, its presence both comforting and ominous. It extended its hand, a gesture of invitation and challenge. As Alex reached out, the symbols on the floor flared to life, a blinding light filling the chamber. The air hummed with power, the very fabric of reality bending to the will of the building and its ancient architects. And then, in the heart of the light, a new vision emerged, a glimpse of what was to come. Alex saw the city transformed, the Tech building at its center, a beacon of power that drew the eyes of the world. He saw himself, changed in ways he could not yet understand, standing at the threshold of a new era. But the vision remained incomplete, the final pieces of the puzzle eluding him. The light receded, leaving Alex in the silent chamber, the weight of his destiny pressing down on him. The shadows watched, their whispers a mixture of anticipation and warning. As Alex left the chamber, the building seemed to pulse around him, its secrets and stories weaving a complex tapestry that only he could unravel. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but Alex knew there was no turning back. His story with the Tech building was intertwined, a narrative that would change the very essence of reality. And so, the tale of Alex and the Tech building continues, a saga of darkness and light, power and sacrifice, waiting for the moment when the final chapter will be written in the annals of history. In the aftermath of the blinding vision, Alex found himself standing at the precipice of the unknown. The Meyertech building, a silent guardian to the path he was destined to tread. The city around him moved in its ceaseless rhythm, unaware of the forces stirring in its underbelly. Alex, now more a part of the building than ever, felt its pulse, a rhythm synchronous with his own heart. The relationship between Alex and the shadowy figure deepened, evolving beyond the silent guidance of before. It was as though they were becoming facets of the same entity, their destinies intertwined by the ancient rites encoded in the very foundations of the Meyertech building. Each visit to the underground chamber revealed more of the grand design, a design that Alex was central to completing. The urgency of the shadows grew with each passing night. They no longer merely whispered. They implored, their messages imbued with a sense of impending culmination. The familiar figure, once a guide, now seemed like a harbinger, its silent communications tinged with an unspoken gravity. One night, as the moon cast a pale glow over the city, Alex was drawn to the building with a force that was impossible to resist. The air was thick with anticipation. The city's sounds muted, as if in reverence to the moment that was about to unfold. The Meyertech building stood taller, its presence more imposing than ever before. The underground chamber awaited him, its atmosphere charged with an electric tension. The symbols on the floor glowed with a fierce intensity, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The figures in the shadows moved with purpose, their forms shifting, coalescing into patterns that mirrored the intricate designs on the floor. In the center of the chamber, the familiar figure awaited, its form clearer, more defined. It was as if the veil between them had thinned, the essence of the figure bleeding into the tangible world. As Alex approached, a connection formed, a conduit through which knowledge, power, and destiny flowed. Visions cascaded through Alex's mind, not of the past, but of the future. He saw the building, not as it was, but as it could be, a nexus of power that transcended time and space. He saw the city transformed, its fate inextricably linked to the rituals that the Meyertech building housed. But within the visions of grandeur and power, there were shadows of doubt, whispers of consequences unconsidered. The ritual, once thought to be the culmination of the building's purpose, now appeared as a threshold, beyond which lay realms unknown and forces uncontrolled. The familiar figure extended its hand, an invitation to step beyond the known and embrace the destiny that awaited. But within its silent offer lay a warning, a hint of the sacrifices required, the balances that would shift, forever altering the course of Alex's life and the fabric of reality itself. As Alex reached out, the chamber pulsed with a power so immense it threatened to consume him. The figures in the shadows drew closer, their forms merging into a swirling vortex of light and darkness. At the heart of the vortex, the familiar figure stood, a beacon guiding Alex towards his destiny. The building itself seemed to hold its breath, the very air charged with the potential of what was to come. The line between the tangible and the ethereal blurred, the chamber becoming a gateway to possibilities both awe-inspiring and terrifying. And so, Alex stands on the brink, the future unwritten, the path shrouded in darkness and light. The tale of the Meyertech building and its chosen son continues. A story of power, destiny, and the thin veil that separates our world from the unknown. What lies beyond the threshold, only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The journey is far from over, and the darkness that awaits is both a promise and a warning. As the vortex of shadows and light in the underground chamber intensified, Alex felt a profound connection to the Meyertech building, as if he and the structure were converging into a single entity. The familiar figure, now almost tangible in its clarity, seemed to be both a part of him and a separate entity, guiding him towards an inevitable destiny that was intricately woven into the fabric of the building. The air in the chamber crackled with energy, the symbols on the floor blazing with an otherworldly light that seemed to pulse in sync with Alex's heartbeat. The shadows moved with purpose, their forms becoming more distinct, as if the veil between worlds was thinning, allowing entities from beyond to make their presence felt in the tangible world. In this moment of convergence, the familiar figure reached out, its touch no longer ethereal but solid, a bridge between the shadow realm and the physical world. As their hands met, a surge of energy coursed through Alex, a flood of knowledge and visions that transcended time and space. He saw the Meyertech building not just as a structure of steel and concrete, but as a living, breathing entity, its roots extending deep into the earth, tapping into ancient energies that predated the city itself. He saw the network of ley lines that converged beneath the building, a web of power that stretched across the globe, connecting sacred sites and places of power. The visions shifted, showing Alex the rituals that had been performed in the chamber, each one adding a layer to the building's purpose, a step towards an event that had been centuries in the making. He saw the original owner, his eyes alight with a fanatical zeal, not as a madman, but as a visionary, one who had understood the true potential of the building and had sacrificed everything to see it realized. But with this understanding came a realization of the enormity of the task that lay ahead. The ritual that was nearing completion was not just about harnessing power. It was about opening a gateway, a door to realms beyond human comprehension. The familiar figure, now clearly a guardian of this threshold, stood at the nexus of worlds, holding the key to the door, but also serving as a warning of the dangers that lay beyond. As the connection between Alex and the figure deepened, he understood that his role was not merely to complete the ritual, but to navigate the consequences, to balance the forces that would be unleashed. The Meyer Tech building was the key, but he was the guardian, chosen not just for his affinity to the building, but for his ability to bridge the worlds, to stand at the threshold and make the choices that would determine the fate of all. The chamber began to settle, the vortex of shadows and light receding, leaving a calm that was both eerie and profound. The familiar figure stepped back, its form becoming less distinct, but its presence still a palpable force in the room. The symbols on the floor dimmed, their light retreating, but leaving a residual glow that hinted at the power still contained within. Alex stood alone in the center of the chamber, the weight of his newfound knowledge and responsibility pressing heavily upon him. The path ahead was fraught with unknowns, a journey into the depths of the building and beyond, into realms where the boundaries between the physical and the ethereal, the past and the future, were blurred. As he made his way back to the surface, the Meyer Tech building seemed to resonate with his steps, its walls whispering secrets only he could hear. The city lay before him, its lights a stark contrast to the darkness he had embraced, a reminder of the world he was sworn to protect. The story of Alex and the Meyer Tech building continues, a tale of ancient powers and modern ambitions, of guardianship and sacrifice. What lies beyond the threshold and the choices that Alex must make remain to be seen. But one thing is clear, the journey has only just begun, and the darkness that awaits is both a promise and a peril. Emerging from the depths of the Meyer Tech building, the weight of his destiny heavy upon his shoulders, Alex was met with the indifferent hustle and bustle of the city, the stark contrast between the ancient forces stirring beneath the streets and the everyday concerns of the city's inhabitants only deepened the sense of isolation that had begun to envelop him. He was a guardian of secrets that could not be shared, walking a path that few could understand. As days melded into nights and nights back into days, Alex found himself increasingly drawn to the building, each visit uncovering new layers of the complex tapestry that was Meyer Tech's history and purpose. The familiar figure, his silent guide through the labyrinth of shadows and light, became a constant presence in his life, a mentor preparing him for the challenges ahead. The ritual, the culmination of centuries of preparation and sacrifice, loomed ever closer, its intricacies and dangers becoming clearer with each revelation. Alex understood that he was not merely to be a passive participant in the unfolding events, but a key player whose decisions would shape the outcome of the ritual and the fate of the world beyond. One night, under a blood-red moon, a new vision seized him, more potent and demanding than any before. He saw the Meyertech building not as a singular entity, but as a node in a larger network, connected to other nodes across the globe, each pulsating with its own rhythm, yet in harmony with the building's heart. The network formed a complex, living sigil, a gateway that, when opened, would merge the realms of the known and the unknown, the seen and the unseen. The vision expanded, showing him the other guardians, each linked to their node, their fates intertwined with his. He saw the threads that connected them, threads of light and darkness, each guardian facing their own challenges, their own choices, the realization that he was part of a larger fellowship, a cadre of chosen ones, each bearing the weight of their destiny, brought both comfort and a profound sense of responsibility. As the vision receded, the familiar figure stood before him, its form clearer, more human than shadow. It spoke, its voice a whisper in Alex's mind. The time approaches, the convergence is near. Your choices will echo across the realms, shaping the path for all. The figure extended its hand, a key materializing in its palm, a key that Alex knew would unlock the final door, the threshold between worlds. Taking the key, Alex felt a surge of power, a resonance that vibrated through his very being. The chamber around him, once a place of learning and preparation, now felt like a staging ground, the point from which he would embark on the final leg of his journey. As he left the chamber, the Meyertech building seemed to pulse with anticipation, its walls whispering secrets of the past and promises of the future. The city outside remained oblivious to the monumental events that were about to unfold. The veil between the mundane and the magical still intact, but in the hidden places, in the spaces between the shadows, there was a sense of gathering, a convergence of forces, both light and dark, preparing for the moment when the gateway would be opened and the realms would merge. The story of Alex, the Meyertech building, and the ritual that would change everything was nearing its zenith, a climax that would tear down the barriers between worlds, challenging the very nature of reality itself. The journey ahead was fraught with peril, a path that would test Alex's resolve, his courage, and his understanding of the power he wielded. But it was a path he could not turn away from, for the fate of the worlds, seen and unseen, rested in his hands. The story continues, its conclusion yet unwritten, a tale of darkness and light, of power and sacrifice, unfolding in the shadow of the Meyertech building. Emerging from the depths of the Meyertech building, Alex was met with the pre-dawn silence that blanketed the city. The experience within the underground chamber had irrevocably altered his perception of reality, endowing him with a profound connection to the building and a burdensome responsibility towards the impending ritual. The familiar figure, now his constant, shadowy companion, lingered at the edge of his consciousness, a guide and sentinel for the path he was destined to walk. As the days unfurled, Alex's life outside the Meyertech building seemed increasingly distant, almost as if he were living in two separate worlds. By day, the city bustled around him, its inhabitants unaware of the arcane forces simmering beneath their feet. By night, the building called to him, its whispers guiding him back to the underground chamber where the symbols and shadows awaited, each visit revealing more of the intricate tapestry of magic and power woven into the structure's very foundation. The bond between Alex and the building grew stronger. Each night spent in the chamber, forging a deeper connection with the ancient energies that pulsed through its corridors. The building itself seemed to respond to his presence, doors unlocking and lights flickering on as he passed, as if it recognized him as its custodian. The ritual, now ever present in Alex's mind, began to reveal its true nature. It was not merely a means to harness power, but a key to maintaining the balance between the seen and unseen worlds. The visions granted by the familiar figure painted a picture of catastrophic consequences should the balance be upset. A warning that the success of the ritual was paramount not only for the sake of the building, but for the city and beyond. With each revelation, the sense of urgency grew. The familiar figure, once a mere guide, now appeared as a mentor, its silent teachings preparing Alex for the role he was to play. The shadows that once whispered warnings now spoke of destiny, of a role forged in the fires of ancient rites and bound by the will of the building itself. As the date of the ritual drew near, the city seemed to sense the impending event. Strange occurrences began to ripple through the streets. Unexplained phenomena that the news attributed to technical glitches and natural anomalies. But Alex knew better. The fabric of reality was thinning, the barrier between worlds growing fragile as the ritual's power reached its zenith. The night before the ritual, Alex stood before the Meyertech building, its imposing facade more alive than ever. The familiar figure appeared beside him, its presence both comforting and daunting. It extended its hand, an invitation to step into the unknown, to embrace his destiny as the guardian of the threshold. As Alex placed his hand in that of the familiar figure, a surge of power coursed through him, a final affirmation of his role in the ritual. The building's doors swung open, welcoming him into its depths, the shadows parting before him as he made his way to the underground chamber. The chamber itself had transformed, the symbols on the floor blazing with an ethereal light, the air alive with anticipation. The familiar figure took its place at the center, its form more defined, a beacon in the darkness. Alex knew that the moment of truth was upon him, the culmination of centuries of preparation. The ritual would begin at dawn, a convergence of ancient magic and modern will, the balance of power, the fate of the unseen worlds, and the future of the city rested in his hands. As he took his place beside the familiar figure, the chamber pulsed with energy, the boundaries between worlds blurring. The ritual was about to commence, the dawn of a new era on the horizon. The story of Alex and the Meyertech building, a tale of darkness, power, and destiny, was reaching its zenith, the final act yet to unfold in the shadow of the coming dawn. As the first light of dawn crept across the city, the underground chamber within the Meyertech building thrummed with an ancient power, its air thick with the anticipation of centuries. Alex, standing beside the familiar figure now revealed as the keeper of the threshold, felt the weight of destiny upon his shoulders. The ritual, a convergence of energies both dark and light, was about to begin. The symbols on the floor ignited with a blinding light, casting ethereal shadows that danced along the chamber walls. The keeper, a silhouette against the burgeoning glow, began to chant in a language that resonated in Alex's soul, a call to the forces that lay beyond the veil. As the chant intensified, the barrier between worlds thinned to a mere wisp of reality, allowing the energies of the unseen to seep into the chamber. The air shimmered with power, a visual testament to the ancient magic at work. Alex, guided by an instinct he did not fully understand, joined in the chant, his voice melding with the keeper's in a harmonious invocation. The building responded, its structure vibrating with the collective energy of the ritual, a beacon in the pre-dawn gloom. Suddenly, the chamber shook violently, a roar filling the air as the veil was torn asunder. From the breach, shadows emerged, not the familiar whispers of guidance, but something far more ancient and malevolent. The ritual, designed to balance the energies, had instead opened a gateway, a door through which the darkness sought entry into the world. The keeper's eyes met Alex's, a silent communication of realization and regret. The ritual had been a gambit, a risky attempt to harness powers beyond their control. The balance they sought to maintain was now tipping towards chaos. The unleashed forces threatening to consume not just the building, but the city and beyond. As the shadows coalesced into forms both terrifying and mesmerizing, Alex understood the true cost of the ritual. The building, a nexus of ancient energies, had been both shield and prison, containing forces that were never meant to be disturbed. In a desperate bid to rectify the breach, Alex and the Keeper channeled the remaining energies of the ritual, not to complete the invocation, but to seal the gateway they had inadvertently opened. The chamber blazed with light, the symbols on the floor burning with a desperate intensity. With a final, concerted effort, the breach began to close, the shadows receding as the light overwhelmed them. But the victory was short-lived. The forces unleashed were not easily quelled. In their rage, they lashed out, a maelstrom of darkness that sought to drag everything into the abyss. Alex, standing at the heart of the storm, felt the darkness clawing at his very essence, a chilling void that threatened to erase all that he was. In a final act of defiance, he poured his soul into the ritual, a beacon of humanity in the face of the encroaching dark. The chamber erupted in a blinding explosion of light, the shockwave rippling through the building. into the city. As the light faded, silence descended, a haunting absence that echoed through the empty corridors of the Meyertech building. When the city awoke, the Meyertech building stood silent, its doors sealed, attuned to the events of the night. Alex, the keeper, and the shadows that had guided and threatened them were nowhere to be found. The building, once a nexus of power, was now a monument to the dangers of delving too deep into the unknown. The city moved on, the memory of that night fading into the realm of urban legend, but some whisper of the darkness that still lingers within the walls of the Meyertech building. A cautionary tale of ambition, power, and the thin veil that separates our world from the horrors that lie beyond. And in the dead of night, if one listens closely, the echoes of the ritual can still be heard. A chilling reminder of the night the shadows danced in the heart of the city.